meeting of the North Bennington Grade School Prudential Committee for August 13th, 2025. On screen, we have Kieran McNamara as one of our members here, Matthew Patterson, who's the vice chair.
Hello.
And myself, Ray Molyneux, the chairperson, and also our treasurer, Doug Bougie. And we do not have our normal secretary, Lori Elwell, because she's on vacation. So Kieran will be making notes, and I assume he's going to give to Lori to write up. But I'm not, I haven't asked, so I tell them. I don't see anybody here to offer public comments. So we'll move right to finance and the treasurer's report.
And Lonnie's coming in right now too.
Okay, so I'll just kind of hit the highlights. So there is 2 reports in there. I'll just skip to July because June there isn't very much activity. So July we have our first village school tuition. So this is $159,155. The other large item, obviously, was the wire for the bond payment. And since we were just talking about that, I'll reiterate that again for the actual meeting. So our bond payment is $48,545, of which $25,000 is principal and $23,545 is the interest. And the amount that we receive in the form of a check to offset part of that is $20,199.06. So basically we paid about $3,500, just under $3,500 in interest once you offset the amount paid with the check that we received. So that's it for the treasury report. Unless anybody has any questions, I'll wrap that part up and then I'll discuss the RFP process.
Okay. Yep. I don't have any questions. Does anyone else?
Okay. So, as we talked about at the, we got to go back, June meeting, with the process that the district went through with our current bank for our tax anticipation note, the lengthy process, the excess work, all those factors, and information provided from Renee of other districts that are having trouble with the current bank. We're going to start the process of sending out an RFP, a request for proposal for banking services. So that was a first draft. Renee actually just replied with another one. So I'll look at this one, and I'll get together with Renee, and we'll get a timeline together. I may bump those dates a little bit because that is kind of like in the heart of my tax collection. So I may bump that back by a month or so. So the wrap up would be probably like end of January, mid-February. I think that's a little bit easier for me to be able to manage the process of gathering the information and getting new accounts transitioned, assuming we get proposals back and things like that. Between emails that Renee had sent out and forwarded to me, we are pretty confident there's going to be at least 2 banks that offer us proposals. I'm not going to go into names as of yet because it will be an open proposal. So we do know that we will get some feedback for a proposal to move those accounts. And so we'll go from there. So that'll be a process that gets started over the next 4 to 6 weeks. And then that will go out and then we'll go from there. So unless anybody has any questions, that's kind of where that's at. Renee, if you want to add anything, certainly feel free. And I will say for those that know, Renee is going to kind of open and lay things out because of my position at a local bank so that there's nothing you know, everything's above board, all the proposals are open properly, reviewed properly, and compared apples to apples.
Okay. Any questions from board members? Seeing none offered. Budget status, we usually skip. Therefore, if your information, if you want to review it, we are looking at I will mention briefly. I have both of them in front of me, and the end of fiscal year 25 at the end of June. There's we were substantially under our total budget for the year at that point in time, and that has to do with partly the reserve fund for the ventilation project and partly with some drop off in tuition and other things, but it's mostly at around that $203,000, so I think. And then FY 26 has just started, so it's hard to read anything into those numbers yet. Except that there's a large encumbrance for, expected expenses. And if you look at that column, no, we haven't had many expenditures yet, that just reserves that part of the budget for down the pike. But I think we should move to the consent agenda unless there are any particular questions about the expenditure reports. Okay, the consent agenda has two sets of minutes for June 11th and the continued part of June 11th that was occurred on June 25th to 25. And then we have the final warrants of FY 2025, which I signed for. Is that what happened? Yeah.
I think Rick actually may have just run them. So we still have FY 25 open, so if there were anything else that's in, we can still push that back right now.
So, yeah, so I probably signed for this warrant of it's dated August 13th, but it's basically expenditures from FY 25.
Yes.
And one includes payment to L'Oreal for minutes. Couple sets of minutes. Because of there were two meetings in June. One was a continuation, but they had to be minutes for both meetings. And then there's the expenditure for building expenses that we reimburse the village school for because they pertain to the expenses the landlord is expected to pay. That was $4,315 to round up. The two sets of meeting minutes were $100 between them. So the warrant is for $49,64.84. That closes out FY 25. The warrant for FY 26, the July warrant. That's August warrant. We're paying two.
It's the village school.
Yeah, that's only one payment though. That's the August payment. Did we not have a July payment to them?
Yes. I'm sorry, so you've got.
Oh, okay, sorry.
on both
It's
pages.
on the back of it. Okay, so there are two payments to the village school, one for July and one for August on this warrant. And those are both for $159,000, $155 each. And then we're paying the village, we're returning some funds to the village of North Bennington. Those are just balancing tax receipts, right? Okay. So the total of those two warrants is $368,962 to be even number. And I would entertain a motion to approve consent agenda as described. That was Matthew.
I'll move, or I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Lonnie. All right. I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's all of us. Thanks very much. So we're moving right along here. I can find. What's the statement? What did it do? I had barely. That's minutes. That's the warrants. That's treasurer's report. There's the.
Go.
Thank you. All right, policies, we don't have any. Superintendent's report, are you offering a report? No.
Our superintendent is attending trainings in Montpelier today and tomorrow. So I think he will plan to attend next month because we actually have trainings in Lake Maury on September 23rd and 24th. So that'll be after your next regularly scheduled meeting. So
Is that the PSBA convention or is that?
that is a relatively new, it'll be the third joint kind of budget planning meeting between the Vermont Superintendents Association and the Vermont Association of School Business Officials. So it's intended to be all districts are they're sending their superintendents with their business managers for 2 days.
Okay. And given that Tim is new to this, that's a very good thing for him.
Yeah, so we'll be going.
Participate.
Yeah, he and I will be going. Laura and I
And-
went last year.
Yeah, right. Well, good. Thank you for that. Bears report. Well, this is going to be, I hope, brief. But well, I don't intend to discuss anything in detail here. But so I put down 2 items: education reforms and board standards. But there's some other things to talk about as well that I was not aware of at the time. Put this together. Ed reform, of course, at the moment that's in the process of the redistricting committee making the study and deciding on proposals to present to the legislature in December. And post the redistricting committee's work, there will be another committee called the Ward Formation. Is that what it? Ward Formation?
Voting.
Right.
Yeah.
Voting Board Formation Committee to respond to what the redistricting committee has offered as proposals for the legislature to work on next year and decide about how they're going to reorganize. So last night at the North Bennington Village Trustees meeting, our local representative, Will Beard, gave us a report on, among other things, this education reform stuff. And it was useful. He had some general remarks about redistricting and the voting ward formation committees, and he wasn't very he wasn't thinking that either of these committees was going to help North Bennington very much, but he continues to observe this, and he will do whatever he can and whatever we ask him to do, I think, to help us out in that context. When, I mean, he's not on those committees. I don't know that he can certainly make comments to them for us. And then, of course, there will be the question of legislative action once January 2026 rolls around.
Ray, I do have a question. I don't know about what the other school boards have been in conversation about, but I had an interesting conversation with Sherry Swartz the other day about just the idea of some sort of coalition between the boards in our specific district. I don't know if it's worthy to get the boards together for conversation about what this means for our community in total and how we can work together with these different, all of these different schools to find some sort of, I don't know if it's a solution because we don't necessarily know what the redistricting is going to look at.
And what boards are you talking about?
Well, because we have the North Bennington Graded School and that cover I'm not necessarily talking about the boards, but like the schools in general. So we have the Village School, we have Southshire, we have Highland Hall over on 7, and we have Shaftesbury. And like, what is there conversation? I don't know if this is something that Will touched on at all, but is there conversation between the schools on how to kind of like, I don't know if there's a committee or anything like that between like of multiple members of the different schools boards and whatnot to kind of combat this from like a community standpoint. Is just I didn't know if that was like something that's on Will's mind or on other principal, like I don't know if it's something that Tim's talked to you about at all.
Yeah, I think something might be useful there. I've been contacted by Colleen Healy about talking to her. I had sent information out to Highland Hall and the to Grace Christian and Sacred Heart and Maple Street. I was going about the bill itself and what it some of the provisions that were troubling in it. One of which is that it says that, well, it has certain criteria for an independent school to be eligible for public tuition funds. One of which is that as I recall, it's for at the end of FY24, you must have had 25% of your students publicly funded in order to qualify. Second restriction on it was that the schools, the independent schools to which students of a district might be sent for education with tuition being paid have to be within the geographical boundaries of the district, which I find a idiotic requirement for this state. But that's what it says, and I had asked Will, because it sounds like, um, I'd asked whether that meant, for instance, if, uh, for us to exist as a tuitioning district, we would have to remain a district, and that would have to be under a system that uses supervisory unions. That's the only way that happens. Otherwise, the district disappears, and I don't think there's going to be any tuition in this area, which is
Yeah, so I guess, and
So-
this is me still kind of being a layman to, you know, the role of school boards and whatnot, but what is our role in creating committee or community surrounding those schools that you had talked about reaching out towards to, like, I don't know, find like loopholes to this kind of thing that seems like it's coming down the pipeline and being,
well,
possibly to several.
let me say one thing, your children would not be affected because the law provides for children that are in schools to finish their education in those schools.
Oh yeah, I know about the I've been looking into it a bit, so I know about like the grandfather clause there, or I guess, you know, a more PC term for that. But I'm guessing like towards the you know, future of education for the kids in our communities. What is the school board's role in possibly creating some committee between the heads of school for all of these different institutions to find maybe out of the box thinking ways around what's coming down on us. And it might be, the answer might be like, that's not our role. And we can suggest these, you know, heads of schools to meet. But it's just, it's been the thing that I've been thinking about a lot, is like how like none of the schools within our community want these changes. Like the way that these changes are coming about are kind of detrimental to a lot of the different educational institutions in our community. And what can we do together to like, you know, bolster that community strength to find a way out of it.
Okay, so I was going to speak about this a little bit. There is a grassroots organization called Rural Schools Community Alliance, and they have gotten themselves together to lobby during this past legislative session for their representing a lot of smaller schools. Not particularly an independent school operation, but because they are lobbying for a set of supervisory unions in, you know, a solution that includes supervisory unions as well as perhaps what they call supervisory districts. And they have been fairly successful in getting at least a hearing at the state for the committees that were considering the education legislation. And one of the reasons why that is A, they've been very persistent, and B, they've hired a lobbyist. And they've been, that lobbyist has made quite a bit of difference for them in keeping their point of view before the eyes of these legislators. So I think we might consider joining that because I think our interests collide on this one thing of maintaining a supervisory union for us here that would allow us to continue the system more or less as we are. Although, you know, we have to conform to all the other requirements that they stuffed into this bill. So I was going to ask the board if you want to consider doing that, joining, we would have to put some money in, but we have money to do it. In our board expense money.
I mean, it seems to me that that would be money well spent if if they hired a lobbyist and, you know, that's, you know, aligned with what the solution seems to be, is to keep the supervisory and we have. I don't know if that's, do you know how much is it, so to join the alliance is like a fee or something?
They request some money because they're paying for lobbyists, but, I would have to talk to Margaret McLean, who's one of the, maybe the principal organizer, but she's not the only organizer. And she's been very active in supporting this effort, which her involvement actually extends back to 2015-16, when the Act 46 actions were occurring and districts were fighting those. At that time, they did not have a lobbyist, and they got this time they felt that they needed to have a lobbyist to have more impact, because it's difficult for lay people to be up there and spend the time necessary. Yeah. I don't know what I think I'm not sure that it's a set fee. I think it's more or less a contribution. But they may have some ground rules on that. And I can contact her through email
How much,
if we're willing to do that.
how are we a little late to the party on that participation? I mean, I
No,
think
no,
Lenny's,
we're not. It's it's ongoing, and they're still getting members. They have
but haven't,
quite a number of districts, and I can send the information on the actual organization structure at the moment.
I'd
How
appreciate,
many people participating?
but at this point, the laws have been passed. Now it's just an interpretation of the law. So does the lobbyist get a chance to sway opinion? I guess maybe so, and to bring that back to the
Well, the whole thing is going to have to be settled in the legislature after these committees do their work. The committees don't set anything. They just put some proposal. They were supposed to describe ways in which you can do this, given the constraints of the legislation. And the legislation itself can be changed. It likely will be. So there is definitely, I mean, it's definitely worth doing.
then I'm all for what Lenny is suggesting. If you could find out more about what the recommended contribution is toward participation in this. I think it's worthy of a few $1,000s, if not more, to get some input or to have some input in that.
And I think also the strength in that would also come from like the conversation between, you know, the different administrations of the schools in our communities too, to be like, hey, this is something we want to be a part of, and getting a conversation going.
Lenny, could you get closer to your
Oh,
speaker?
yeah,
I'm having
sorry.
trouble hearing you, sorry.
I'm right on the corner of Pangea, so there's cars riding by.
Okay, right. Yeah.
But I feel like there is the strength in that too, in getting consensus among the administration of the different schools within our communities to like join this together and also as a subsect say, okay, this is what we want to do here. Because I think honestly, a lot of what we're working with currently in our, state administration and our national politics going on right now is trying to find loopholes among pretty terrible things, and how we can like maintain and progress and like sneak through these different little avenues. And that's going to take conversation between the larger community at whole. So I feel like if we are all, if we're gung ho about joining this, what did you say? It's the coalition, the rural Coalition.
Schools Community Alliance.
Schools Community Alliance, like having that be, I don't know if it's like if you join by school board, I don't know if it's if you join by, institution or
School
what
board in this case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Individuals have joined as well, but
Mm-hmm.
for us, it would make sense to be school board. And it could be, for instance, South Shore could join as a school, I think.
Well, yeah, so I was thinking, getting Southshire on board, getting Shaftesbury on board. We do it as a school board, but people like the independent schools or the different school boards in our area, is Grace, what's Grace Christian's school board? Like, I guess I'm not sure what all of the school boards are.
Right, well, for Shaftesbury, that would have to be the SVUESD board. And I'm not sure they'd actually be interested. But at any rate, for Grace and for Sacred Heart, they're basically going to be excluded by the 25% rule.
Gotcha.
And Highland Hall is as well. So I don't know that unless they think, I've heard that Highland Hall is not particularly concerned about this, but I think Tim told me that, Tim Newbold. But
So it's
I
like
don't know.
these other groups aren't going to do anything about it because it's not affecting them yet.
Well, there depends on whether you think that rule could be changed, to drop to a different percentage over. I don't know. And as far as say Maple Street, where some students from this district go, I don't know if they have enough students if they meet the 25% rule that is in this legislation. But I mean, we could reach out to them and find out. And Long Trail's another one. And see if yeah, I mean, I guess we could draw a fairly wide, at least make contact with a bunch of schools and see if they're interested in doing it. Arlington's already joined this as a district, has joined this RS Rural Schools Community Alliance.
Yeah, their website says that Sandgate has too.
And Sandgate has, okay. So Sandgate's the other non-operating district.
So Ray, quick question, that 25% rule, you bring up Maple Street. So if Maple Street doesn't have 25% students from North Bend Integrated School District, we wouldn't be able to send them tuition. Is that how that works?
No, it's if they don't have 25% of their students as a whole are publicly funded. It doesn't, there could be other public bodies that are funding students there, but I'm not certain of that because that would mean I don't, they would be competing against MEMS.
Well, so that was my next question. So if a student is in the MEMS district, MEMS does not pay Maple Street, is that correct?
I don't think so.
Oh, yeah, then I
It-
would
It's,
be,
it's BRSU and they have a number of towns that I think are similar to North Bennington and
Right.
Sandgate that are tuitioning districts.
One's Win Hall.
Sandgate, Hall,
Yeah,
okay.
I mean,
So,
not
but if
to
somebody
interrupt.
is in what would be the MEMS district, I'll just use that as a loose term. And their parents choose to send them to Maple Street, that's a full tuition boat then. Private, I
Uh,
mean,
that's my belief, yes.
okay,
Yes, if a student resides in a public school district,
And the.
And operating.
Then they're not going to send, they're not
Okay.
going to fund.
then
They'll-
that would
they'll
make
only
sense. That
pay
would make sense for
the
them being
education
under
of students.
25% then.
Yeah,
And
but we
Maple,
can
Thank you.
ask,
Maple Street relies on virtually all their students as tuitioning in from public districts.
Right, but as a private, right, that was where I wasn't quite sure.
So they'll be fine, I would think.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I don't think they're
But
gonna
they're
lose
not- they're
anybody
not
because of
most-
that.
the question is whether those students, whether, they're obviously coming from Vermont districts, most of them. Whether the district is paying for it or whether the family is paying for it.
Right,
If-
based on what you're laying out and knowing that school and where it is and all those things, I would bet that it's a
Yeah,
heavily
but we
private
we should
tuition.
inquire and see if there is a reason for them to be interested. And I don't know if what's up with the mountain school in Win Hall?
Well,
Well,
but in all of their, I mean, I've been out of there for 8 months now, but that all of their students are tuitioned into their
Right.
from, so they're fine. I mean, they're not, might not be fine in other reasons, but they've got virtually all of their students are tuitioned
publicly tuition.
from the same district, from the public.
Right. So but they're part of BRSU, right? I believe they are, right? Yeah, they're the mountain, part of the mountain, part of the district there. And so they're subject to whatever this legislation does to redistricting at that area, because they may end up in some way part of our portion of it.
Could be, or
is
they could
the
get
SU.
thrown over to the other side of the mountain, because it's right at the divide, they could end up being.
They could go the other way, yes, right.
Yeah.
Right, so, but we could contact them, see if they're interested in doing that. I think we don't necessarily have to wait for anybody else, we could do it ourselves. And South Star could do it for itself, but we could make that effort to check other schools and situations out, see if they're interested in or have already done, Sandgate's already done this along with Arlington, so
They're in this thing.
yes. They've both joined in.
So I would think that South Shire would be well advised to get involved. I think
Yeah.
they're probably the most vulnerable of the schools I mean, Highland Hall, yes, but they don't seem to, they're gonna make it work
Yeah.
either way, so.
I don't think they have 25% of their students public pay, but.
They don't.
They do have some from Sandgate.
Yeah.
I know that, currently. More than we have there. We have 3 students there. And I think they have more like 5, but that's still. 20%, if they have 30 students, that would be 6, right? Oh, so you might make 25%, you might be close to making it.
I get the sense they don't care. They're just gonna keep doing what they do, and
Yeah.
And I
Right.
appreciate
They,
that.
they may well just not care to deal with all the mess and regulation.
Yep.
Yep. But we could check with them. So, can we make a resolution and we'll make a move toward joining this group and contributing?
Yes. Yes, I think so.
I think we ought to make it as a resolution, so it's in our minutes.
A motion, I would move to explore the cost and the efficacy of us joining this alliance to be better informed about what's going on and who's
I'll second.
Okay. Do you think you can write this down, Karen? I mean, you can,
you already did.
you're gonna write it in your notes, so you'll put what's important in there. So I'll just call the question. Are we all in favor? Are we all in favor?
Aye.
I am.
Aye.
Lonnie?
She said she
She's
was
having trouble.
cutting out, but
Yeah,
I know she's in favor.
yeah, I know she's in favor. It's just
There's 3 of us, so we're good.
yeah, we got 3, so that's okay. So the next part of my report is
I
Board
gotta jump
training.
off, Ray, so I'm gonna head out, guys.
yeah. Thank you, Doug.
Have a good night.
Thanks,
Good
Doug.
night.
Is the board standards. Apparently as of July 1st, there are new standards for board education and that we have to follow. And I've been participating here at the SU we have a consultant, Tracy Wren, who was also part of the superintendent search. He was our consultant for the superintendent search, who is working with the members of the SU board to review what we have to, the sort of, are they actually called
They're
EQS for the board?
district quality.
District
standards.
quality staff, sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've been to one of these and it's all viewed from the perspective of an operating district, so these things mostly don't apply to us as I saw it. But I will continue to look at it and try to make sense of it. Okay, there are a few other things that I thought we ought to mention. Oh dear. I can't read. Um. um, You can't help me out. You can't read my handwriting either. But I'm just trying to remember what okay, so one thing I needed to mention was that sort of for any public that might be listening is that Brittany Cassan, who works here at the SU, who handles our student data and also handles our accounting for the district, devised an interactive form for recertifications. We have been, treating, families that have already submitted a residency application that's been approved and who are continuing because their students are still in K-6 range, to recertify every year that they are still residents of our district. And we have done that in a more informal way where we sent out the form that I devised by email mostly. And they would reply back with corrections if there were any, and certify that they were still resident within the district. But this form is an interactive form that will be tallied by Brittany at the SU, and it basically gathers the same information. It's just digitally gathered, which means doesn't have to be a transfer manually from the paper. It was a paper document online, basically, but not interactive. It'd have to be transferred into files, right? That you could access without just looking at the piece of paper. You can have the information file. So that's she's devised this form. It's up and running, and we expected to use it, but of course, some people have already supplied their own recertifications. So those will just be handled manually as they would have been. And she will be sending out notice of the form to everybody that's should be in our list for continuing students in the district. And that form is available on the SDSU website, and she will be taking parties that are identified that she knows of and sending it out to the directly. Then there is another issue that arose last night at the
Village meeting.
village trustees meeting about a draft memorandum of understanding for use of the school by the village for a limited emergency shelter. And this would be an MOU, memorandum of understanding, between village school and the village of North Bennington, but it also includes the district board, the prudential committee, because we own the building. There's still lots that I have not read it, and we have not executed anything yet, but we will have to deal with that in future if we want to move forward with making the school building itself this temporary sort of shelter in case of a weather or other emergency. Next, there is Tim's not here to give us a report on the ventilation project, but I know that the project is moving right along and seems to be on a good schedule, although I'm not sure that it will be completed by the opening of school. And also it seems to be on financially at the point where it should be, and perhaps not needing as much of that 203,000 as we thought. So Tim was asking us to think about other ways we could spend some of that money for the benefit of the building. And Matt and I have had some correspondence with him. And I have a list of things. mean, Tim was proposing that we paint the gym ceiling, but between Matt and I, we came up with some other things to think about doing. For instance, the gym floor is, sadly in need of a new application of repair and epoxy and striping. We have an ongoing interest in replacing windows, especially those that where the balances keep breaking, that they're not operable very well. There are stair treads on the fire stairs that could be replaced wholesale. Let's see. There are some rooms left with old sheet carpet that could be renovated with carpet tiles, as we've done previously in some other rooms. I think the floor of the stage in the gymnasium could probably use sanding and refinishing. And perhaps there are some other things like elevator expenses that we, or I thought maybe a chimney cap on the boiler
But-
chimney.
But for that matter, Ray, I mean, we're still looking at a boiler that needs some consideration. You know, it's not quite probably doing what we hoped it would do, or it did, but it's 10 years later now. And then the email from Tim tonight about the sprinkler system. We're looking at $18,000 to recharge that fire safety system and bring it up to new code. And of course, I'm disgusted by the fact that this thing would, I mean, the system works. Why now is there new code for new fluid and a whole new thing?
I think that's, I didn't read it, but it's quite possible it's the use of propylene glycol, which is it, you know, is used because it's non-toxic to humans. But it has a tendency to, it's mixed with water and it has a tendency to stratify and to basically you end up with potential corrosion in the system because the
Water.
of the water stratification out of it.
Oh, so we've
That's my thought about what's
got a new chemical
what it
now,
is,
it
but
won't
ready.
stratify, and it might be potentially toxic to humans, but that's better. You know, I mean, this is a pyramid scheme. I think that this system, and I'm not saying we can't just decide not to do it, but I think the system right now, in the event of a fire, would do what it's designed to do.
Yeah, right.
And yet
It
now,
has in the previous on occasions, it has already done that, yes.
and I think now they're asking for another 18,000 to make it more better. But you can't make it more better. It's the same system that does the same thing. I'm just
Well,
disgusted.
you know, typically that the recharge of the system, which has to be done because of this stratification that occurs that I was mentioning, it is like it's about, I think it's about $2,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a substantial increase. I agree with
Now it's
that.
like suddenly we have to drain the whole system and put a whole nother compound in there that of course hasn't been tested. but it's new and it's better and I'm just frustrated with that. I've
Yeah,
seen this a lot with, there's a mafia element to this where it's like, hey, we can move in here. It's like the asbestos thing 40 years ago.
Well, is there any other company out there besides Atlantic Fire or Atlantic Sprinkler that we could bring this to and have them provide a quote?
I
Just
think at
to
that
change the
level,
price difference.
I think at that level, we are required to get a second quote. Are we not, Ray? Or not at $18,000?
Threshold for
No.
public bid is 40,000.
Damn it. Okay. So that's
well,
fits
I
well with
think it might, you know, we might, maybe we should do that, yeah,
It'll
I
be
mean,
the same.
our internal procedures
yes.
recommend that if you're gonna spend over 10,000, you seek at least two
Two bids,
costs.
two costs, yeah.
But as far as the state statute goes, it's
Well,
40,000 for public bid.
No,
Have you
we have
dealt-
sprinklers in other school buildings.
I was wondering if you had dealt with this at
Yeah.
all in other buildings with this new statute about a new chemical that needs.
Holly would be the better person to ask, but
Okay,
I am
yep.
routinely seeing expenses related to sprinkler inspections, sprinkler repairs.
Yes.
It's constant
Well, inspection you have to have
every
every year.
year.
Right. But the fluids have been on like a 3-year basis, I think. I don't know about, I only know about North Bennington. I don't really know about,
I mean, is the only main
There's-
concern on this the shelf life of the
Chemical.
substance that's actually in there to put out the fire, or is
It's the propylene glycol does not, it doesn't have a real shelf life. It just settles out because it's in the solution. It's heavier than the water and it settles out over time.
But that doesn't stop it putting out a fire because propylene glycol,
No,
in my understanding, has nothing to do with putting out the fire. It has to do with it not freezing.
yeah,
And
it's the antifreeze.
right. So where in the system is it subject to being frozen? And does the system allow for you to just have
Well, I don't think there is any place other than due to heating failure in the midwinter that is subject to freezing.
which is
But,
probably not a time you can have a fire, but
You could have a fire, yeah.
whatever. So that
I
looks like
don't-
that's part of this surplus we're already spending that we don't even know if it exists yet. It's going to be that $18,000,
Yeah,
and I don't think that painting the roof of the gymnasium is probably part of that.
yeah, I don't know that that's really. Well, I haven't seen whether those new panels are even up yet, I guess. So Renee, could you ask Holly to contact us? Because we'd like to, I mean, I could send her an email, but she typically takes a while to get back to me.
so? Are we not using any of our surplus that we set aside for this? Is that the deal?
I don't know how much, I don't actually know the numbers.
Some indication that maybe it won't be as much as we needed to.
Yeah,
I mean, without really knowing, I mean, we can't really start throwing money
Yeah.
out that we don't know
I
how
mean,
much of that surplus is going to be used.
I mean, the proposal that Tim brought to us was for $11,000. So that's not huge. And I didn't inquire further about it. I just,
You mean for the sprinkler system, and then tonight he sent out the final thing that was more.
Yeah, it's like 18,000. There's $11,000 line item on there.
And then an added, we have to get out of our truck and
Janitor's closet loop for 5120, and then just the inspections, and then the sticker fees, and
Yep.
total 17,000.
Well, the sticker fees those are every year,
So,
the inspection and sticker fees, yeah.
but an additional janitor's closet loop, replace antifreeze per code change.
new solution, new formulation or something.
$17,083.
Is there, the state has someone that deals with sprinkler, right? I mean, can we ask them about this, just to get facts straight?
I mean, I guess we could. I mean, if Holly reaches out to us, we can, see if she uses Atlantic Fire for the issue, or who the SVSU goes through,
Yep.
who
Yeah.
they utilize.
We do. We do use them quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe she might know of anybody else that might be able to, provide a quote on it as well.
I imagine it's pretty much monopolized.
Well, no, there are other companies in the area. I see trucks for other sprinkler operators occasionally on the roads here, so I don't think Atlantic is completely exclusive, but would depend on Holly to help us out, figuring this out. Although that's gonna have to happen fairly quickly, because this has to be done before school. I don't know, maybe
Or was there some indication that as long as we're working towards that, the state's okay with it, or?
yeah, probably there is.
Yeah.
But I don't know all the facts here, so it was kind of news to me, and I didn't really read all of it, so I just saw it. So, I mean, I'm not asking for action on this. I'm just talking about it, and I think I will keep communicating with the whole board, since we are the whole facility committee between us.
And we'll talk to Tim. Is Tim out of town, or is he just not on tonight?
I think he may be out of town, but I'm not sure.
We'll catch up with him in the next week and just see what's going on there and what his thoughts are on it.
But I'm going to ask Renee to nudge Holly.
Yep.
To talk to.
Drafting an email right now, and I'll add it to my to-do list for our meeting tomorrow too.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, that's all I have to say. Anybody else have anything to say?
Well, that's about enough. I think we've had an adult portion of things to say tonight.
We've had a what?
An adult portion.
An adult portion. Okay.
It's a
Thank
leave
you very
on
much.
Helm. It's a leave on Helm reference, but from the band.
Okay.
But I know that I've had an adult portion of this stuff. I have been watching a spider build an incredible web right in front of my door. And I got to videotape it now, so
It's just
it's a big
like
spider.
so it's a orbital web. Okay.
Well, send you a video. I'm telling you, this thing, I think it's thinking it's going to capture us as we exit the building.
Capture some. Yeah. All right, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you, Lenny, for your points.
Yes, thank you.
Well
Lenny.
made. And Thank you, Kieran, for taking notes.
Indeed,
Thank you, Renee, for your assistance.
also.
Thank you, Matthew, for being here.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.
I know.
Bye.